I've titled this message, Pressure, Pain, and Purity. We all know what pressure is like. Whether it's you're a college student, grad student, and you've got to get the paper written, or there's something going on in your family with the kids or finances, we feel pressure. Out of that pressure, a lot of times comes other things, and I just want to look just for a little bit at Ruth's story this morning, but I'm not focusing on Ruth. You see, there's a mother-in-law that had to go through a process. Pressure, when it is applied to us, can either make us better or cause us to drift into wrong directions and go after things that is not God's best for us. And when I look here at Naomi, I see that what is happening with her and her husband and her family, they're making choices that aren't the best for them. If you look at Ruth 1:1, it says, in those days when the judges ruled, it doesn't tell us what judge ruled. It says there was a famine in the land. And so immediately this father, like any dad, you're concerned about taking care of your family. And what it says is that he took his family and he moved them to Moab. Elimelech is moving his family from a place in Bethlehem, Judah, to Moab. What does Moab represent? When you look at it theologically, when you look at it, what's going on culturally, it represents incest, an incestuous relationship. It represents stubbornness and rebellion, not letting the people of God pass through their land. It represents idolatry. It represents all of these things. And here is this family out of Bethlehem, Judah, that says, let us go from a place where God has kept us now to a place of compromise, a place of immorality, a place of idolatry. And pressure sometimes can cause you and me to make statements that we really shouldn't make, think thoughts that we really shouldn't think. And my prayer is that when you and I experience pressure, that even as it leads to pain, that it presses us more into Christ than it does pressing us into the world's culture and the world's mold. Moab, they thought was their provision. And it ended up being a place of great pain and sorrow. Because the next thing it says is that Elimelech died. And the sons, they married Moabite women. And then the sons died after 10 years. So you've got this family who was living under God's provision, God's protection. Even though there was a famine in the land, God still provides. And pressure forced them to a place that now it's brought great pain. And as you look at Naomi's life, she finally hears that there's bread back in Bethlehem, Judah. And and you know the story how she goes through with Ruth and Orpah goes back. But when they say, oh, Naomi is coming home. Listen to this. She says, don't call me Naomi. Because what does Naomi mean? Pleasant one. Naomi, her name means pleasant one. She says, don't call me pleasant one, call me Mara. Mara means bitter. Because the Lord has dealt bitterly with me. Did God tell them to go from Bethlehem, Judah to Moab? No. But as you and I, if we're not careful, we allow pressure to force us into things that never was God's plan. But here's the thing, no matter what you were going through, where you are, God is there. God is in your trouble. You say, what? Yeah, God is in your trouble. He may not have caused your trouble, but because there is no place God isn't. There is no place you can go. David said it this way. He said, if I ascend into the heavens, you were there. If I descend into the depths, you were there. So God is in the midst of your chaos. And your chaos is in the midst of God. Because there's no place He isn't. And so Naomi has gone through this process of being pressured. Yes, she was following her husband's lead, but now she's trying to pick up the pieces of the pain and the suffering that's going with this. And we all know how the story ends up. Her pain awakened her so that when she heard that there was bread back in Bethlehem, Judah, she said, I'm going home. I know in our culture, we do everything we can to alleviate pressure and pain. We get in a financial difficulty, we put it on a credit card. We get into a physical difficulty, we go see the doctor immediately, so just get rid of this. We take so many prescriptions and different things like this. Or even as followers of Jesus, we'll chase every healing evangelist around because we want to feel good, we want to fall down. And You know what? I believe there are times as followers of Jesus, stop running from the pressure and see what God will work in you and work through you. You say, wait a minute, I don't get this. I believe that God wants me healed. I believe that. I believe that healing is provided for in the atonement. But what happens when you pray the prayer of faith for someone and they're not healed? Is that your fault or mine? No. God is the one who is sovereign. When you and I walk through this life of pressure and pain, instead of running from it, that you and I say, God, how will you work this in my life? 21 years ago, a doctor spoke death over me and said he's going to die. And they found a cyst on my brain. I had viral encephalitis, and I had lost the use of the right side of my body. And it was on my son's first birthday. And I remember sitting one night in our kitchen, and I was having a pity party. And I said, God, I don't understand. As a young evangelist, I have laid hands on the sick and seen them recover. And I'm holding up my hand. I said, God, I have laid hands on demon-possessed people and seen them set free. I said, why won't you heal me? He said, Don, if I never touch you again, if I never heal you again, if I never bless you again, I've done enough for you. Your name is written in the Lamb's Book of Life. It changed everything for me. It changed how I view pressure. It changed how I view pain, because I believe there are things that come into our life that if we will not run from it, that God will be glorified through it. Psalm 23, we all know this. We learned this as kids. I love that part that says, He leads me in paths of righteousness for His name's sake. And it would be wonderful if the psalm stopped right there, but it doesn't. The next verse says, even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death. There are times paths of righteousness lead us through the valley of the shadow of death. And don't be afraid, because you are with me. Your rod and your staff, you comfort me. You see, this is not the end. This is temporary. But too many followers of Christ treat this like this is it. My encouragement to you is when you are going through battles with your family, when you're going through battles with your health, I mean, it's like my family has gone through so much in the last decade. You know, the Bible tells us many are the afflictions of the righteous, but the Lord delivers them out of them all. Pain and pressure come together. It's a fact of life. So through pressure and pain and suffering has come a purity in my faith. A purity in my worship. You see, my worship is not contingent upon the worship leader or the music. My worship is contingent upon the heart of God in my life and my heart toward God. And so pressure and pain brings a purity of faith and worship. Sometimes the life of the believer is most fragrant and most powerful when it's under pressure, when it's suffering pain, that our worship becomes real. Don't run from pressure. Don't seek to alleviate. Ask God, God, I know you will never leave me. You will never forsake me. How can you be glorified in this and through this?